Welcome to John Carter's Stories. You know that moment when your whole world cracks open? When everything you thought was solid just shatters? I'm sitting here now and I can still feel it. That cold evening when her mother looked me dead in the eye and said the words that would change everything. She's carrying twins, but they're not yours. The sound that came out of me wasn't even a laugh. It was something hollow, something broken trying to hold itself together. Her mother didn't blink. She just kept going, like she was reading from a business contract. Let's not make this messier than it needs to be. We'll wire $5 million to your account by morning. Just sign the papers and disappear. $5 million. To erase myself. To pretend I never existed. And you know what I did? I smiled. Can you believe that? I actually smiled at them. Congratulations, I said, my voice so calm it scared even me. Then I signed those divorce papers right there, shook her father's hand like we just closed a business deal, and walked out of that mansion. I walked out like a man who just sold an old painting he never wanted to frame in the first place. My name is Marcus Davenport, and I don't shout when I lose. I walk. But here's the thing. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Because what I'm about to tell you, it needs to be heard. It needs to travel. It needs to reach everyone who's ever been made to feel invisible. A week later, I was on a flight to Lisbon. No press conference, no dramatic announcement, just space. Distance. Ere I could finally breathe without choking on lies. I let them run whatever story they wanted. That I'd been paid off, discarded, forgotten like yesterday's news. Let her plan that perfect wedding with him. Let him gloat in his expensive suits. Let her family think they bought my silence with their blood money. They thought they were so clever, didn't they? But what none of them asked, what not a single one of them thought to question, was why I'd signed so quickly. Why I didn't fight. Why I didn't beg or plead or make a scene. No one noticed the nurse I tipped generously at the hospital. No one saw the DNA test I quietly, carefully submitted just 2 hours after she admitted the affair. 2 hours. While they were probably celebrating their victory, I was collecting my evidence. You see, I knew something they didn't. Now, months later, they were finalizing wedding vows, photographing cake options, choosing flowers, planning the fairy tale. And the envelope I had timed so perfectly, so precisely, had just arrived at the rehearsal dinner. She opened it. And then she screamed. Have you ever had your trust shattered? Drop a comment below. That scream, oh God, that scream echoed across the rehearsal hall like a dropped microphone in an empty theater. People froze mid-laugh, champagne glasses suspended in air. The violinist's bow stopped moving. Her sister dropped her drink, and it shattered across the marble floor. She stood there in her ivory dress fitting, gripping that envelope like it had burned straight through her perfectly manicured fingers. The paper shook. Her whole body shook. Is this a joke? She barked at her fiancé, her voice cracking with panic. He looked confused, stammered something meaningless, his face going pale. But her mother had already stormed over, those designer heels clicking like a countdown, demanding answers, demanding control. But I wasn't there to give them anything. I was already sipping espresso at a rooftop cafe in Porto, overlooking the Douro River, watching the sunset paint everything gold. When my phone buzzed, I saw her number. Unknown to most, but I knew. I answered but didn't speak. Just listened. Marcus. What the hell is this? Her voice was frantic, desperate, breaking apart. The truth, I said calmly, taking another sip of my coffee. You had no right. I had every right. I was your husband, remember? You made me live a lie. I just corrected the record. You think you're clever? She hissed. No, I replied, letting the word hang there. I think you're predictable. Because what that DNA test revealed, it wasn't just going to destroy her wedding. It was going to destroy everything. Her family had bought silence, not closure. They thought money could paper over the cracks. But I never needed their money. I never cashed that check. I just needed the perfect moment. And now that the cracks had started showing, now that the truth was seeping through, they were about to find out I didn't just leave quietly. I left strategically. They tried to recover the rehearsal. They really tried. Someone restarted the music, nervous laughter filled the gaps, but the room had fundamentally changed. You could feel it. The air was different. Whispers spread faster than champagne being poured. Her bridesmaids huddled in corners, clutching their phones like lifelines. His best man kept glancing at the exit, calculating escape routes. And the groom, the so-called father of her twins, was pale as death, shaking, scrolling frantically through his messages like someone searching for a lifeboat on a sinking ship. Because you see, that DNA report didn't say the twins were mine. It said they weren't his either. They were no one's in that room. Not mine. Not his. Not anyone they knew. She had lied twice. Maybe more. Who even knows anymore? Weeping. I'll admit, there was a part of me that night in Porto that just wept. Not for her. Not for us. But for the man I used to be. The man who trusted completely. The man who believed in forever. Would you have exposed the truth? Or walked away silently? Tell me in the comments. And when a woman builds betrayal on top of betrayal, when the lies stack so high they block out the sun, even those who love her start doing math in their heads. Her own family started calculating. Reconsidering. Doubting. I didn't release the test to the press. I'm not cruel. I didn't need to orchestrate anything. Her mother did it for me. She accidentally forwarded the wrong email to their family attorney. Can you imagine? The woman who orchestrated my exit, who handed me that check like I was a problem to be solved, she became the leak. It spread like wildfire. Screenshots hit the tabloids within 24 hours. By morning, every news site, every gossip column, every social media platform had the same headline. Heiress family fairy tale wedding crumbles after secret dinner bombshell. And me? I was still in Portugal. One hand on my coffee, one foot tapping to a street violinist playing something beautiful and melancholy across the square. I never asked for revenge. But if they were going to script me out of the story, erase me like a mistake, I decided to rewrite the ending myself. By the time the wedding was officially postponed, the tabloids had an absolute field day. They speculated everything. Fertility scandals, secret surrogacy, celebrity impersonation schemes, international intrigue. The theories got wilder by the hour. But the truth? The truth was far more boring and infinitely more damaging. She didn't know who the father was because she'd been sleeping with 3 different men during our marriage. 3. None of them me. And none of them aware of each other. One was a nightclub investor. One was her family's financial advisor, a man her father trusted implicitly. The third worked valet at her favorite spa, the place she went to de-stress every Thursday. She didn't just betray me. She desecrated everything. Her family's legacy, her own future, every person who believed in her. And the man who was supposed to marry her? The groom who stood there in his custom tuxedo just days before? He vanished the next morning. No public statement. No press conference. Just a deleted Instagram account and a red-eye flight out of the country. And that's when her family realized they'd lost control completely. Her family was left to clean up the PR bloodbath. Damage control meetings, crisis management consultants, lawyers upon lawyers. Weeping, you could almost feel sorry for them. Almost. That's when my phone rang again. This time it was her father. "Marcus," he said, and his voice was gravel now, worn down by humiliation and fear. "Yes. We made a mistake." "You made several," I corrected him. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. "I want to fix this," he finally said. I chuckled, actually chuckled. "You think this is still a negotiation? Marcus, what do you want?" I finished my drink, watching the Portuguese sunset bleed into the horizon, and said very quietly, "I want the company. The one your daughter thought she'd inherit. And I want it clean." He didn't argue. Didn't counter. Didn't even blink, I imagine. "And if we give it to you? I walk away," I said. "No press tours, no tell-all interviews, no more DNA tests. No more revelations. This ends." He exhaled like a man measuring the exact cost of public shame versus private surrender. "Would you have taken the deal? Or pushed for more? Let me know below." The company was old money. Land development, logistics, real estate, now rebranded for the digital age but still ruled by whispers and handshakes and legacy. His daughter was supposed to inherit it all. I was supposed to be just the charming distraction who married in and smiled for photos. And now I was the only one not tied to the scandal. The DNA leak had tainted everything, everyone. Investors were nervous, stakeholders furious. His daughter was practically untouchable from a credibility standpoint. But me? I was clean. Spotless. The wronged husband. The sympathetic figure. So I waited. Let him sit with it. Let him calculate the odds. Finally he nodded. I could hear it in his breath. I'll have the papers drafted. You'll own 100%. Her name comes off everything. I stood up from my cafe table, stretched, felt the evening air. You're doing the right thing. He didn't answer. What could he say? 2 days later, I signed the ownership transfer inside a silent boardroom. No cameras, no celebration, no champagne toasts. Just ink, initials, and the sound of breathing. The irony. The beautiful, perfect irony. That night, my ex-wife called. You win, she whispered, and I could hear her crying. Actually crying. But I wasn't smiling. My face was stone. My heart was ice. This was never about winning, I told her. This was about making sure you never erased me again. Never made me invisible again. She hung up. Just gone. The press tried to keep the fire going. But what I did next, that's what really shook them to their core. Tabloid headlines shifted from her affair to wild theories about why I left the country, why I returned, and how I suddenly acquired control of a multigenerational empire. The speculation was endless. I didn't respond, didn't post, didn't explain anything to anyone. Because silence is louder when people know it's intentional, when they know you're choosing not to speak. Inside the company, I made immediate, ruthless changes. Rebuilt the entire leadership team. Cleared out every executive she had vouched for, every friend of the family collecting a paycheck for doing nothing. Moved operations online. Sold off outdated assets her father had clung to out of ego, not strategy. And within 60 days? We posted our strongest Q1 results in 5 years. Oh, you should have seen their faces when those numbers went public. Disbelief. Denial. But that wasn't the part that really rattled them. What shook them, what kept them awake at night, was what I did next. I renamed the company. No longer tied to her family's name. No longer their legacy stamped on every door and letterhead. It became mine. Weston and Sons. Not because I had children, but because one day I would. And they'd inherit something forged from survival, not scandal. Built from truth, not lies. Have you ever rebuilt yourself from nothing? Share your story below. She sent one more message after that. Just one line. You don't get to rewrite history. I read it once. Let it sit there on my screen for exactly 3 seconds. Then I deleted it. Because history is written by the ones who were never supposed to survive the first chapter. By the ones who were supposed to disappear quietly. By the ones who refused. Weeping, there were nights I still woke up angry. Nights I still felt the betrayal like a fresh wound. But those nights grew fewer. The pain grew smaller. The life I was building grew larger. Her family tried one last play. One desperate, final move. An emergency injunction claiming I manipulated her during our marriage. That the DNA test was falsified. That I coerced her father during a time of emotional instability. It was weak. Transparently, pathetically weak. But not surprising. I'd spent enough years behind their closed doors to know exactly what desperation looked like. What it smelled like. How it moved. And this was it. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to delay. To create doubt. To muddy the water. But I had prepared for that too. Of course I had. My lawyers filed a response within 24 hours. A counterclaim. Airtight, dated, witnessed, and backed by private records they never knew I kept. Conversations. Payments. Her own signatures authorizing the very terms they were now calling coercion. Evidence stacked so high it could touch the ceiling. The judge read both sides. Looked over her glasses at her attorney. And asked a single question. Are you prepared to be countersued for defamation under oath? The case was dismissed that afternoon. And just like that, the final door they tried to close slammed on their own fingers. But my story doesn't end there. I didn't celebrate, didn't gloat, didn't call anyone to share the victory. I just walked out of that courthouse, loosened my tie, and felt the sun on my face for the first time in what felt like years. Actually felt it. They wanted me erased, made invisible, forgotten like I never mattered. But now they'd spend the rest of their lives walking past my name, seeing it on buildings, on business contracts, in the news, everywhere they turned. The sweetest victory is the one they can never escape. A year later, the company stood taller than it ever had under their name. Weston & Sons became a symbol not of revenge, but of resilience, of rebuilding, of refusing to stay down. We launched housing initiatives in underserved regions, partnered with clean infrastructure startups, quietly funded scholarships under names no one would recognize, but I did. Names like the nurse who gave me access to that first DNA swab when I needed it most. The friend who helped me vanish when I needed distance and clarity. The attorney who believed me when no one else would. I didn't chase recognition. I chased correction. I chased truth. I chased justice. And I got it. I really did. Tell me in the comments what you would have done in my position. And if you've dealt with something similar, if you've been betrayed, erased, made to feel small, share your story. You're not alone in this. None of us are. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life, because that's what this is really about. Taking back what's yours. Not with violence. Not with cruelty. But with truth. One crisp fall morning, I walked into the same cafe where she once sat with her fiancé, planning their future, laughing at my expense. The place had changed hands. Different owners, different menu, different everything. No trace of them remained. But I still remembered. I remembered exactly where she sat. Exactly how she looked at him. How she never looked at me that way. As I paid for my coffee, the young barista looked up, recognition flickering in his eyes. You're him, right? From the articles. The whole thing. I gave a small smile. Depends what they said. He grinned, impressed somehow. That you didn't lose everything. That you just took the long way to something better. I nodded once, felt something warm in my chest. Yeah, that's about right. Because it was true. Every word. Weeping, not from sadness now, but from relief. From release. From finally being free. I never needed to ruin her. She did that all on her own. The lies, the betrayals, the arrogance of thinking she could rewrite reality itself. All I did was stand still long enough for the truth to catch up. I walked out of that cafe into the morning light, into a life that was completely, entirely mine. No shadows. No ghosts. No lies. Just me. Marcus Davenport. The man they tried to erase. The man who refused to disappear. I won. Not because I destroyed them, but because I built something they could never touch. Something real. Something true. And that, my friends, that's how you survive betrayal. Not by becoming bitter. Not by seeking revenge. But by becoming better. By building something so solid, so real, that no lie can ever shake it again. Subscribe if this story moved you. Like if you believe in second chances and new beginnings. Comment and tell me where you're listening from, what this meant to you, how you've survived your own battles. Because we all have battles. We all have scars. But some of us? We turn those scars into armor. And we keep walking forward. Always forward. Never back. This is Marcus Davenport. And I don't shout when I lose. I build when I win.